From what your university. Thank you very much for your preface. The first, I want to talk on speak. Thank you very much for the all the speakers today. Is very famous speaker today because we know the speaker is the seniors lecturer from um, the campus. The first, Mr. Gulam Reza Zendi for Jopari, PhD, lecturers in Business School, University Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. And then Dr. Liz Julfiati, Sarjana Ekonomi, Magister Science Accounting dan Certificate of Accounting, lecturer College University STIA Indonesia, Jakarta, and the participant. We are very glad you come in this Zoom right now, and we take the knowledge from the famous speaker. Therefore, I close this openings remark. Let's we mm, get the new knowledge and experience for the speaker. Okay, thank you very much once more for the speaker and the participant. And now we look the LC video for the participant. You can to mute your sound right now because we to see the presentation from Dr. Gulam Reza. Time issue now, Dr. Reza, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Very clear, your screen.
Good. Can you see my slides?
Yeah, very clear. Your screen clear and your sound clear.
Thank you. So I share my slides already. Right. I put here today some, I can say, my own also finding and research, and so other researchers, the latest technique. I put it much more technical part for forensic accounting. As you may know, forensic accounting is a branch of accounting. I did my PhD in financial accounting. We have a lot of branches in accounting, such as management accounting, auditing, management information system, or accounting information system. So one of the branch of accounting is forensic accounting and fraud examination. So today I try my best to prepare something to be useful and also new to everybody interested regarding forensic accounting, to be really creative. So as you see here, the meaning of the forensic, that it is the application of investigative and analytical skill to resolve the financial clashes to be acceptable by court. That's the main issue in forensic accounting. So forensic accountant apply too many skills. You have to know very well skills in auditing, accounting, finance, quantitative areas of law, research, investigative skills to collect, analyze, evaluate evidential matter to be acceptable to the court. So the knowledge skill, auditing, investigative, communication skill, criminology, psychology. There are a lot of opportunities for forensic accountant, such as investigation, litigation, computer forensic, and the main organizations in the world that support the forensic accountant are Association of Certified Fraud Examiner, American College of Forensic Examiner, Association of Certified Fraud Specialists, National Association of Certified Valuation Analysts, National Litigation Support Services Association, and the Institute of Business Appraisers and American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. So as I said at the beginning, that forensic or fraud examination is a branch of forensic accounting. So the American Institute of Certified Public Accountant classify forensic accountant services into two main categories. We have investigative, that is time of fraud, and litigation services, such as mediation, attribution, business valuation, and expert testimony. So the main advisory services you can have from forensic damage claim by plaintiff, any economic damage claim. So our focus in forensic accounting is on economic side. We are not police forensic. We don't go to the crime. We just look after economic side of crime. So workplace issues, lost wages, disability, asset or business valuation, cost and loss profit, cost and loss profit due to business interruption, or now the COVID-19 pandemic, insurance claim, divorce, matrimonial is another issue. The forensic accountant look after as a litigation services. We call it litigation services because there is no fraud in this case, such as divorce. So what is the definition of fraud? In fact, it's very subjective issue, but any intentional deception or cheating by omission or co-omission that cause the victim to suffer an economic loss. So any theft by deception or any false statement, material false statement in financial statement, considered as fraud. And any reliance or any dependability on the false statement that result in the damage, economic damage to the victim, considered as fraud. We have also abuse that are very simple. Of course, also abuse is a deceitful act or deception, but not severe such as fraud. Also, definition of abuse, improper use or treatment. Very subjective to differentiate between fraud and abuse, but the abuse is less severe than fraud, and the economic damage is less. So the main fraud range of fraud in forensic accounting, including overstating revenues, understating expenses, and this is for top management, and at the employee level, check tampering, cash register schemes, expense schemes, and bribe at the employee level. So major category, we have larceny, conversion, embezzlement, breach of fiduciary duty, asset misappropriation, corruption and abuse, financial statement fraud, and other fraudulent statements. Okay, I start with larceny, that is felonious stealing, taking, carrying, leading, riding, driving away with another's personal property with the intent to convert it to or to deprive the owner therefore. So any taking, carrying away the property of others that you don't have any right. Conversion, unauthorized assumption, exercise of the right, ownership over goods, personal. Embezzlement is also a subjective issue. Last time, before I become academic, I was a chief financial officer. So we got a case of embezzlement I wish to share, that our cashier was carrying about 250,000 USD cash notes in the vault. So what he did, it was very interesting, a type of embezzlement. He was doing business with the US exchange. So he put the money in the business, and at the end, near the year end, he put back the money inside the vault. So the principal was intact. But during the year, he was doing business with the US dollars notes. So is it fraud? something that he was claiming in the court, because we sent a report to the police and then a lawsuit against him. The company was the plaintiff. So he was claiming in the court that he didn't do any fraud or abuse because he put back the money inside the vault. So the money is intact. Yes, he did business. He was using the money, the equity, but he put it back intact. He didn't do, and they were inside the vault. Although it was not accepted. So the embezzlement, this fraud, as somebody willfully to take or converts one's own property to himself to take advantage out of it. That trying to show that it is acquired lawfully. Fiduciary or violating fiduciary relationship, that the trustee take advantage of the property. So the fiduciary relationship also between plaintiff and defendant is also a subjective issue sometimes, because the fiduciary supposed to do the best for the trust given to him. The next part in forensic: asset misappropriation, theft or misabuse of organization asset, corruption, unlawful wrongful misuse, fictitious revenues, that you usually record liability as revenue or expenses as assets, that we call it inappropriate capitalization of expenses, the last part. So fictitious revenues, recording liability as revenue or reverse. Improper timing of revenue, concealed or disguising the liabilities, inadequate or misleading disclosure, improper asset valuation, and as I said, recording expenses as an asset. We call it capitalization. Any questions so far from me? Or okay, question will be at the end. Okay, so essential characteristics of fraud. The misstatement is material and intentional. These two are very important attributes of fraud. The misstatement is material and intentional, on purpose. So the users of financial statement have been misled. So I prepared this. Can show fraud in a picture, I believe. As you see, fraud starts with opportunity. How much your building guard or security guard can take advantage? Nothing. So fraud comes with opportunity. Who can take or commit fraud? The CEO, chairman, board of directors, top management, managers, directors. A security guard or a teacher or a lecturer like me has no opportunity to take what? To take the laptop of Unicail give to me. What can I do with my laptop? Or what can I do with the facility as a lecturer given to me? So fraud comes with opportunity. So if you look at the history of fraud, you can see that all those involved had high position, very great opportunity. And then you need the money. The next one is the need of the money or the pressure, and then justification. I prepare it like this. Weak internal control as opportunities, ineffective monitoring, assets susceptible to fraud, and then the pressure, as you see here, the pressure, greed, addiction, poor credit rating, cash management, work pressure, dissatisfaction with pay, overlook for promotion, and the justification or rationalization. I will give back the money. It's for a good purpose. I want to give it to charity. The company did not pay me very well. And I pay it back. I will compensate. I pay back to the company. But As personally, I was in practice and as an auditor and academician, I believe the main point for fraud is opportunity. Fraud comes from top management because of the opportunity provided and depends on the companies. Must be public company, public listed companies, public listed government linked companies. Why? Too much resources, weak internal control. Nobody does fraud in a private company. Usually private company belongs to the family, brothers, sisters, siblings, parents, cousins. They don't cheat each other. So fraud comes from public listed government linked company. Fraud is there. In private company, family company, we don't have fraud. Those can consider abuse, not fraud. So an opportunity to commit fraud as perceived opportunities, as you see here, the definition, easy access to assets. So where is this opportunity? Public listed government linked company. And who has access? Security guard? No. Lecturer? No. Who? Top management. CEO. Managing director. And perceived pressure, some addiction, gambling, excessive bills or personal debt, pressure from family, private schools, international schools, or extravagant living style, and rationalization that I will pay back. I didn't steal the money. I remember in the court session, I was that time witness that our cashier was telling that I put back the money. I didn't take it for myself. Yes, I was doing business, but I put back the money. The money is intact. I deserve a pay raise. The company did not pay me. I won't hurt anyone. Once the company gets over its financial difficulty, I will amend the books. Yes, the journal and ledger. I will amend the books. Put back. The motivation, incentive to commit fraud, of course, greed. Of course, greed, ideology, coercion. Usually coercion. Usually CEO brings board of directors along with him. They usually do collusion or fear of losing job, and ego. Okay, according to the studies, I can say majority of fraudsters, majority of them are male, well-educated. Yeah, well-educated, yes. They know the holes. We say they know the holes. Middle age or retired, old man like me, not afraid. At this age, not afraid. Accountant, upper management executive with the company more than 5 years, 4 or more than that. They usually act alone and never charge. They are clean. They don't have any record or convicted or any conviction before. No criminal offense. These are the profile of fraudsters. Well-educated, mainly male, middle age to old man, and top management. According to the studies, the total fraud, Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, the total fraud every year will be caught, recover, 7% only.
Wow.
994 billion.
Wow.
So the total is about 14 trillion. Yes, 14 trillion. Only 7% recover. 25% losses of fraud more than 1 million and 35% losses more than 500,000. And you can see that the 5.7 charged and convicted, 6.8 had prior conviction, and 87.4 never charged or conviction. Why? They escaped. No, not enough evidence. Yeah,
Mm.
not even enough evidence. So the court dropped it, police dropped the case. So as you see, about 90%, 87% never charged before.
Mhm.
Okay, so I wish to share with you a mathematics technique
Mm.
here from Benford. I brought it from mathematics books. In forensic, we don't have this Benford law. In fact, it's about distribution of the figures. For the first time, it was published, mentioned by Frank Benford, the Frank Benford in 1938, about 80 years ago. So he was a physicist, not even accountant. He was a physicist from physics. So the title of the paper he made was The Law of Anomalous Numbers. I took it to forensic accounting and I teach to my students as a technique for investigation to catch fraud. Okay, what is that? I put it into a picture.
Mm.
As you see here, Benford about 80 years ago understood that
Mhm.
the numbers, the distribution of numbers in the list should follow as you see. If figures start with 1, about 30%. The list can be started with 1. Figures start with 2 cannot be more than 17.6. 3, 12.5. As you go up, the frequency of the figures reduce. So what's the use of this physicist law in accounting, forensic accounting? The application of this law is if you got a list of sales, expenses, revenues, assets, if the list is all starting with 1, or starting with 2, or starting with 3, or the frequency or distribution is not following this law, means the list is manipulated, forged. So you receive today a list of expenses. You see all lists start with 1. Cannot be. But of course, the list should have more than 100 figures. We are not talking about less than 100. No, with above 100 figures at least. So this is not applicable to a short list or 5-figure or 10-figure. Must be above 100 figures. So multi-digit numbers beginning with 1 or 2 appear, okay, more than 4, 5, or 6. So the frequency, according to Frank Benford, should follow this, that the human choices are not random. Invented numbers are unlikely to follow the Benford law. So who forge, who manipulate, overstate, understate, change the figures, change the books, are not aware of Benford law. When people invent number, I mean they forge. So the digit pattern have been artificially added to a list of true numbers will cause the data set to appear unnatural. So I think from today on, if you got any list, payroll list, expenses, sales, and you see the figures distribution are not following this. Too many 4, too many 6, too many 9. Not following this distribution, so you can suspect and ask explanation from your accountant, from your auditor, that why a figure is repeated so much. I prepare some here cases. I wish you to look after this case. You can see, for example, the payout check slightly more than 1,000. They were in the previous accounting period. More than most of the previous period check were of amount less than 100. The financial officer responsible was asked about this by the forensic accountant. He responded by saying that they decided to aggregate amounts in an attempt to write fewer check to save the cost. So the merging, because of the distribution of the figures, here the forensic accountant do it further investigation. So revealed that the officer or the accountant in charge was writing check to a bogus shell company. So that was the reason that they were not following the Benford distribution law. Or as you see here, 4 amongst the first digit of the data, upon closer inspection, there were many entries for particular expense to amount 45. The expense to be something vital for running the organization. So here the Benford analysis should be applied to copy of expenses that with particular frequent expense omitted. So if you got an expense, for example, $45 or 45 rupee, you must pay for something every day. It's frequent payment, 45 rupee. So you should remove this figure from the list. And then again, you apply the Benford law to the list. So if something is frequently paid, frequently received, should be deleted. Or as you see here, the bank is a bank, Alpha Bank, give loans. So above 50,000 loans must, loan application should send to a committee to decide. So about 50,000, the loan should be sent to a committee to approve. Below 50,000, there is no committee. The officer, the manager or director can individually make decision. So as you see here, this graph, you see number 1, number 2, number 3, I mean, 10,000, 20,000, 40,000, too many frequently. It's above, as you see, number 1, okay, 2, but number 4, any loan with 40,000 is above Benford law. So why is so higher than Benford distribution? Because if it goes above 50,000, must go to committee and difficult to get consent of the committee. So what they do, they bring down the loan to below 50,000. So as you see here, the applicant for loan 40,000 is above Benford law. So here you can ask here and do further investigation on 40,000, between 40 to 50,000, below 50,000 loan applicants. 100% there is a fraud here. What they did, because here the approval of the loan is based on the individual decision, the officer of the bank. So they bring down, they reduce the loan applicant to below 50,000. No need to send to the committee to decide. Or can be, for example, is for procurement, 2,500 for purchase in a procurement department. According to Benford law, the test of 2 leading digits, 24, could reveal any anomalies or manipulation. So can be used also for procurement purchases, credit transaction, loan data, customer balances, journal entries, stock prices, accounts payable, account receivable. These are the application of Benford law. As I said, it is from physics, and the Benford was a physicist. But the distribution of the figure, as I said at the beginning here, is very important and fruitful for forensic accounting. Really can help for investigation if the figures distribution is above this law. Because any forgery, any manipulation, any fake, because of the human greeds, and they are not aware of the Benford, they will not follow this frequency. Okay, this was one of the area I added to my subject in forensic accounting and fraud examination course. I took it, in fact, from physics, but it's very useful and beneficial for our accounting students. Okay.
Okay.
So for fraud examination, you need a methodology to obtain evidence and then documents, analysis, interviewing, corroborative, neutral, third party, then co-conspirator, and then you reach conspirator or fraudsters. So for this methodology, we go through the process of prediction, prevention, and detection and investigation, sorry. So the last part will be remediation or the criminal or civil litigation and internal control. Okay.
There is
The totality of, the totality of the circumstances that would lead to a reasonable, professionally trained and prudent individual fraud occur, and fraud prevention refer to all internal control, all those constraints, all those, I can say, monitoring, measurement to prevent and deterrence or deter the frauds, and detection, as I just now discussed on the detection. One of the technique we can use through Benford, and then we can also have indirect method that I will discuss later. The networks, very important technique also to detect the fraud. Okay, what we need in forensic accounting, a very strong professional skepticism, that you have a mindset that always recognize the possibility of a material misstatement due to fraud could be present. So you be suspicious, suspicious to everything. We call it professional skepticism. So recognition that the fraud may be present, attitude that always you have questioning and suspicious mind, critical assessment, and commitment to persuasive evidence. So what are the components of fraud? I didn't tell you. So fraud start with, remember, opportunity. Or fraud start opportunity with act. So who got opportunity got also act. The next part, the next angle of fraud is concealment, hiding or concealment or hiding, and then conversion. As you may know, everybody, money laundry, no, money laundry, they call it money laundry.
Yeah.
So money laundry placement or filtering. Then after placement is layering, camouflage. Usually the fraudsters have a camouflage. They have a business, very legal business, very beautiful business. Sometimes charity. Yeah, even university, even college, even they have a high school. They open international school. They open a college because of camouflage. And then the last part is integration, investment. So they bring those dirty money into investment. They put into a legal form. So fraud start, act, opportunity, concealment, hiding, and then conversion. And usually they call it money laundering. So for investigation, we have a lot of techniques, a lot of red flags that start with accounting anomalies, internal control weakness, analytical anomalies, when there is non-financial data that do not correlate with financial data, observe extravagant lifestyle, I'm a lecturer with a limited pay. If one day you see me with a Ferrari, Lamborghini, luxury lifestyle, extravagant, you should suspect. Skepticism is that. That how come a lecturer can afford that? Unless this involve in illegal activities. Or I have unusual behaviors. So the main causes, motivational, situational, and behavioral. We believe these are the main causes of fraud. Management focus on short-term result or their own bonus or allowances based on the profit of the company, situational, ample opportunity for fraud, weak internal control, or the company culture permit high tolerance for fraud. So the evidential matter for the court to be acceptable by court, anything perceivable by the five senses as testimony by witness, record, documents, fact, data, legally presented at the trial, evidence that must address who, what, when, where, and how, why, and successful investigators base their conclusion and the result of their investigation on evidence. So the evidence we use in accounting, financial statement, books, records, supporting documents, interview, as I said, after analysis of the document, books, records, journal, ledger, books, subsidiary. Then the next one will be interview with first neutral third party, then corroborative witnesses, co-conspirators to reach the main conspirator of fraudsters, the target. This is the process of investigation. Start first with document, then interview. So we use hypothesis evidence matrix, analyze available data. We create our own hypothesis, such as study based on the problem, on the case we face, test the hypothesis, refine, amend, and then we draw the conclusion. This is the main, I can say, method, hypothesis evidence matrix in investigation for fraud examination. We have direct method, a specify item method that we use financial statement. We do analysis on the financial statement, horizontal, vertical, trend, ratio, cash flow. So we have indirect method. The most important part is the net worth, expenditure method, and bank deposit method. I will explain later in detail.
Yep.
So for direct method, is very commonly used, rely on a specific transaction, uncover specific financial transactions. We review the books, records, bank accounts, bank statement, reconciliation statement, and direct versus vs circumstantial proof. So easiest to present at the trial because you have enough proof, evidence, black and white, and most difficult for the suspect to refute because you have black and white evidence, such as a ghost employee on the payroll. So the financial statement analysis, as you see, is through horizontal, vertical, trend ratio, and cash flow. These are the main analyses we do. We see the trend, we compare the figures for the past few years. We compare the result with the industry. Yeah, with the industry. The main important technique we use as an accountant, if we face or suspect for fraud, Sales versus cost of goods sold. How much sales increase? Or if sales does not increase, how would the cost of goods sold increase? Sales versus account receivable, sales on credit, sales versus inventory, any changes, anomalies in the inventory or anomalies in the liabilities against assets. These are the main points we look. There should be a correlation between them, a correlation between sales and cost of goods sold. A normal correlation. Sales, accounts receivable, sales, inventory, asset and liabilities. So the main fraud in financial statements can be limited to fictitious revenue, as you see here. Can we record liability as revenue? Can we record something that it is not revenue as revenue? Can. Can we record reserve revenue? Debt revenue. We got loan, we recorded revenue. Timing differences when the revenues is not realized. Concealed liabilities and expenses through capitalization of expenses, or recording liabilities as reserve, reverse. Information asymmetry or improper disclosure. Lack of enough information for users of financial statement. And lack of a proper method for asset valuation. These are the main methods in financial statement fraud. So for horizontal period to period industry standard, this can be very useful for regarding investigation, during investigation. Competitors result. And vertical common size statement, trend analysis. These are the main point for the direct investigation, direct evidence and direct investigation. Ratio analysis, liquidity, asset management, debt management, profitability. These are the main ratio we consider for fraud examination and forensic accounting. Liquidity, asset management, debt management. And for cash flow, the three components of cash flow: operation, investment, and finance. Those parts of the cash flow, that the differences between profit and cash from operating activities, the inflow and outflow in investing activities, how much of the resources spent in investment or giving loan to other companies, and the last part, financing. Whether the company increased the equity, issuing new share, ask for loan, receive loan, and how much repayment of the loan.
Okay.
So the next part is when you don't have access to the books. Yeah. They don't let you to see the books. They don't want to cooperate. And there is no force here or enforcement to receive the books, or the books you receive, you suspected, they have second books. So the books do not reflect all income. They have two series of books, main for themselves and the second one for you, for audit, for tax office. So what you should do here to make your investigation. There are some methods for indirect method of proof. The first one is net worth, that I put a case here also. So remember that any fraudsters, any cheater have 4 ways to dispose the income. Save it, buy assets, pay off debt, or spend it for expenses.
Mm.
So for net worth method, we have a formula. As you know, the net worth is the result of deduction liability assets minus prior year's net worth, increase in net worth, plus living expenses. So will be income or expenditure.
Mm.
So minus funds from non-resources. Yeah. So any increase in the net worth plus living expenses minus the salary or any non-sources, usually the salary, pay, bonuses, allowance the director receive.
Mm.
The rest will be unknown. Okay, if no evidence, if no cooperation for these unknown sources can be here an issue and a clue for forensic accountant as a
Okay.
fraud. Yeah, as a fraud. Okay. Look at this CEO net worth. A CEO net worth, cash in the bank at the beginning, $20,000. Marketable security investment in the share, 70,000. Residence, his house, 400,000, and a mortgage on the residence, 190,000. So the net worth at the beginning of the CEO is 300,000. At the end of the year, he got 60,000 cash at the bank, 120,000 marketable security, residence, 400,000, same. And the loan mortgage decreased to 180. Of course, he paid the installment. So ending net worth at the end, the CEO is 400,000. So 300 increased to 400. Looks okay. No issue.
Mm.
So he got salary. How much? The salary he received is 120,000. 10,000 amounts. So his pay is 10,000 amounts. 1 year, 120,000. Gift from his mother, 10,000. So 130,000. How much increase in net worth? 100. So it looks logic, no issue. We don't have any suspect. It looks like that. Everything is proper, appropriate. So 300 increased to 400. He got 1,000 salary and gift officially recorded. So 30,000 above increase in net worth. But there is one case here. The case or the information is the consideration of living expense. So you should consider also the living expense, the food, schooling, transportation, the life expenses of this CEO is 82,000. Now, what do you think? Is he involved in fraud with this information? So it looks like that he is quite out of any fraud or any abuse. But if you consider the living expense 82,000, you can see that 82,000 plus increase in the net worth 100,000 is the increment. His increment in the net worth. So the increment in net worth 100,000 plus 82,000 living expenses for the grocery, schooling during the year will be 182. How much he got salary? 130,000. So 52,000 is from unknown resources. So 50,000 from unknown resources should be first question him. So first here, the forensic accountant should question the CEO. Where is the sources for unknown here? If he could show the sources, the document that he yes has some consultancy advisory services in overseas, in Middle East, in Qatar, oil company, Qatar Gas, he got some advisory and he received these 52,000 unknown resources. Okay, that's remove any suspect here, remove him from any issue of fraud or involvement or committing fraud. If he does not have any evidence for these 52,000 unknown resources, and he cannot answer the question, so it means he is involved in any type of larceny, bribery, embezzlement, asset misappropriation during the year. So the next method we use to do investigation is expenditure method. So all those lavish residence, expensive car, boats, vacation home, private schools, exotic vacations, those are the type that you question the directors or the managers for this lifestyle. Where is the resources? Where is the source of this income? Is it your salary?
So your time is injury time is finished.
Sure. I'm going to finish it. So
Okay, right.
the total expenditure minus known sources. So any fund from unknown sources, consider fraud if you don't have any evidence. So bank deposit method is also another type of investigation when you don't have any document. So total deposit to all accounts minus transfer and redeposit, net deposit to all accounts, plus cash expenditure, total receipt, minus fund from non-resources. Non-resources is the salary or the official pay or allowances. So the rest, the balance will be unknown or illegal resource. So we can use some other digital analysis technique, data mining, data analytics to do the investigation or any statistical process or extracting information from databases, big data, no big data. Okay, thank you so much.
Wow.
Any question? Thank you.
I see right now that Associate Professor Raza Kamisan Nasir informed me that you are the best lecturer in the business school in the KL. It's very good. I see right now. I know about you from them, but I don't know where are you. But now I look, you are is the wow.
Thank you so much.
College University Sarawak. Dr. Liz, time issue right now. After that, we come to the question answer. Many questions in my email address right now, but let's look Dr. Liz to sharing first. Please, Bu.
Okay. Thank you, Prof. Reza, for your opportunity.
Right.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning.
Morning.
Okay, my presentation is already.
Yeah, your screen is very good. Your bright future begin here. It's the green, young, handsome, and beautiful student.
Our students in Indonesia. So when Mr. Reza come to Jakarta, we will salute you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Min. Thank you. I would like to start my presentation. I was interested with Mr. Reza's presentation earlier because it's related so much with our topic today, creative accounting. I will focus on creative accounting because Mr. Reza is very deep in discussion about forensic accounting.
Mm.
So, subject of creative accounting is normally portrayed as a negative act. As soon as these words creative accounting are mentioned, I believe the image that emerges in one's mind is that of manipulation, dishonesty, and deception. Study wishes to propose today that creative accounting is a tool which is much like a weapon. If used correctly, it can be of great benefit to the user, but if it mishandled or goes hands of the wrong person, it can cause much harm. And according to Mr. Reza's presentation earlier, if accountant too creative, he will cock in the egg. I believe with Benford law and so on. Okay, and
Mhm.
then so I see the audience today, Prof. Many of our students came also interesting with this forum.
Yeah, very
So
great.
I would like to ask the audience, especially students, yeah, what's on
Mm.
your mind if you see these words, creative accounting? Maybe you can share with us through Zoom chat. Are they available for Zoom chat, Prof?
Uh, I think for to the it's very difficult if the and the unmute, but I think
Okay. You have an opinion about what's on your mind about creative accounting? You can
uh,
type it down in its Zoom chat so we can
yeah.
see your
You
response.
can
Okay.
to set the Zoom chat box. I mean, for the question. Yeah.
Okay. So the concept of creative accounting is usually used to describe the process through which the accounting professionals use their knowledge in order to manipulate the figures included in the annual accounts. As we know, accounting has been defined as the art of faking balance sheet, the art of calculating the benefits, the art of presenting a balance sheet, or the art of saving money. So one of a researcher coming from Jankalova 2013 has said accounting can be understood as a conscious distortion of economic changes in a company for a predetermined purpose. It can be characterized as a process in which accountants use their knowledge of accounting laws and rules to manipulate the data contained in the accounting books. So the accounting more professional and they become more creative. Okay. And also the creative accounting discussion appeared in the Anglo-Saxon literature in 1970. So it's an old issue actually, most often in the papers about the bankruptcy or enterprises and those written by Watts and Zimmerman. I believe if one of us is interested in market-based research or financial accounting, we familiar with a paper written by Watts and Zimmerman. Classic, but it represents what happened today. So creative accounting itself geographically both in practice complexity and also its nomenclature. So it become an old issue and also a global issue. As we can see in here, many countries has nomenclature about creative accounting. For example, in Japan, they call Furio Kesan or improper accounting, or Funsoku, window dressing, Karauri, dummy or empty cells, and Maeda Oshi, bringing cell forward. Maybe our friend from Chinese can put on what nomenclature in China about the creative accounting then. Okay, and then creative accounting also um, involve a process whereby accountant use knowledge of accounting rules to manipulate the numbers or figure reported in the accounts of a business. So it kind of financial numbers game. So in the literature, many labels for financial numbers game. One of them is creative accounting practices. Among of them is aggressive accounting, earnings management, income smoothing, fraudulent, and also creative accounting practices. So the next question is, why will company do such involved with a creative accounting? As we know, the shareholder and market reactions depends more and more on managers' actions, and directors are increasingly judged on profit and growth. So company present a report to investor to, and a time like this need a creative accounting. One example is coming from company WorldCom, one of the largest company. They considered operating expenses as investments, recognizing them as assets. This accounting treatment resulted in increased income calculated by the company and reporting of non-existent profit. So I believe if these irregularities happen, maybe Benford's law can capture it. Is that right? Yeah, Mr. Reza. So if
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken, Benford law is catch up with the irregularities. Yeah. So maybe if there's so many irregularities in accounting treatment, Benford work will capture these activities. And why the next discussion is about the reason why company would involve with creative accounting. The first reasons come from income smoothing activity. In income smoothing activity, as we know, there are at least three activities they can do. First is report a steady trend of growth in profit rather than to show volatile profit with a series of dramatic rises and falls. So investor would prefer to see financial statement who go smooth, yeah, rather than jump like a what we call it random walk pattern. So it is the intention of the company to report a steady trend of growth in profit. And the second, according to income smoothing, is the company also avoid rising expectations so high in a good years that a company is unable to deliver what is required subsequently. So good years never come twice maybe. So in order to avoid rising expectation so high in good years, company is unable will maintain the financial statement keep smooth. And the third we call as a big bet. In this situation, company making a bad loss seeks to maximize the reported loss in that year so that future years will appear as a little bit better. So this is the reason for a creative accounting comes from income smoothing. The other reasons are, there's so many reasons why company would involve with creative accounting, manipulate profit to tie in with forecasts, and then keep an income boosting accounting policy change to distract attention from unwelcome news, hide a particularly bad year for the company, whether according to signaling theory, for example, bad news is a news, yeah. Continue the pressure to always be the best, to delay release of information for market, boost assets to avoid takeover, and also motivation for pay less tax, survive for bankruptcy, and to maintain or good share price by reducing apparent levels of borrowing and by creating appearance of a good profit trend. I believe some activities here already discussed in Mr. Reza's presentation earlier. And also from many research mentioned, factors responsible relate to creative accounting. For example, in Gauthorpe and Amat 2005, the factor responsible for creative accounting activities is flexibility in the roles of the regulatory body. As we know that company can choose between methods in order to prepare their financial statement. In Ackenbar 2012, the factor responsibility about the creative accounting is increasing the share value of the company artificially in the short run. And the Sanusi et al. 2012 also mentioned that factor responsible for creative accounting is different sources of revenue, untimely asset revaluation and amortization policies, and so on in a later research as Yadav, Agarwal, and Shah in 2011. So many researchers has proven that creative accounting does exist. Yeah, whether in the next slide we will discuss whether is it illegal or legal, ethic or unethical, and so or the worst is catch with fraud. Yeah. So this is the reason for creative accounting. And then we are going to see how the company, how the creative accounting method runs in the company. Creative accounting activities will allow company to choose between different accounting methods, such as writing off development costs or amortizing it. And also, company can choose certain entries in the account involve unavoidable degrees of estimation, judgment, and prediction. As we know in financial statement, there's a lot of estimation. There's a lot of prediction, such as allowance for doubtful accounts, estimate for economic life for assets, and so on. And also, artificial transaction can be used to manipulate balance sheet and move profit between accounting periods. Although in the accounting, we have known the principle, accounting principle or accounting, what we call it, axioma, and etc. That matching principle is a must, but in the practice, it is happen. And then genuine transaction can be timed to give desired impression in the account. So this is just a little how the company would affect from the creative accounting. Other activities, as I mentioned also in Mr. Reza's earlier presentation, more technically in creative accounting is movement of sales. For example, movement of interdivisional sales from subsidiary to parents or parent to subsidiary in order to gain higher growth of sales. It happened also. And then income recognition, the company adjusting the profits from one year to another year, leading to impression management of financial performance of the company. So it is very creative actually, yeah. So we have to be careful, maybe, Mr. Reza, as accountant. Do we have a limit for the creativity? And then the corporate takeover. Corporate takeover leads to the adjustment in the assets, liabilities, and capital of the organization, thus leading to the effective of financial position. In the merger and acquisition, it happened also. And then off-balance sheet financing. Although the accounting standard internationally, especially for leasing activities, has make a limitation, for leasing transaction nowadays, but leasing and hire purchase, share buyback, special purpose vehicle tools used to arrange finance is often off-balance sheet financing. So it won't be clearly in the balance sheet, but it's there, yeah. So this is how the company create a creative accounting. Overstatements of assets. It can be done various assets such as inventory, cash, plant and equipment, and other current assets. If I read from the other references, creative accounting is simply about how you put debit and credit. So it becomes a creativity then. But the implication of how you put the item on debit and credit, it will have a great implication for the financial statement users. And other methods is a follow-up matching concept, like I mentioned before, how the company will arrange time of recognition of revenue, for example, adjustment in the capital employed, movement in inventory, manipulating the value of goodwill and intangibles. Now, let me ask for the audience, Prof. Allow me to ask our student today, how creative are you? So become accountant, according to this topic, you need to be creative, yeah, but we must be careful. Maybe our creativity has a boundaries, yeah. So for example, number one, if as a transaction, a payment is made for repairing the factory wall. If you are accountant, what would you do? How you treat this transaction? I will show you how this simple transaction can be one of the sample of creative accounting. Okay, is it anyone would like to join us? A payment is for repairing the factory wall. So what would you do as accountant? How you treat this transaction? If you answer this transaction is an expense, so you're not creative. So that's the correct answer. Yeah, this transaction is an expense because does not improve the value of the factory building. So where is the creativity? The creativity is if your treatment, if this payment is debited to factory account. So it will result an overstatement of an asset and understatement of an expense. In turn, this will lead to overstatement of relevant year's net profit and overstatement assets in its balance sheet. That we call creative. But whether it is a fraud, nah, we have to wait until the next slide. Okay. So I have to confirm also to Mr. Reza, is it a criminal, is it a fraud or not? Gitu ya. For example one. Okay. Let's continue for example number 2. There's transaction. A payment is made for constructing a new shed in the factory. What would you do as accountant? If you are creative enough, what would you do to make your financial statement looks better? Yeah, looks better for the investors, especially. So, if you're a creative accountant, this payment is debited to repairs and maintenance expense. So you will treat this transaction as an expense. It will result an overstatement of an expense and understatement of asset. But in turn, this will lead to overstatement of total asset in the balance sheet and understatement of relevant year's net profit. And so on. So this is creativity. So being creative is important if you choose your profession as an accountant. Okay. So because maybe our topic will lead us to about disruption in accounting, yeah, Mr. Reza, and also many social society 5.0 and so on. Whereas as accountant, if we are only focused on debit and credit, we will get there. Accountant is dead. That's a very scary. Yeah. So we have to catch up with accountability and how our creativity not let us to fraud, of course. Okay. So I will continue with example number 3. You don't have to answer today, yeah? But it is a simple example for how creativity accounting is created. A company receives an order for supply of goods in the future along with an advance payment. If you are a student in the first year, you should answer according to the books, yeah. Nah, that's you don't have creativity. But if you are maybe the last year in the faculty, maybe you're more creative. How we will put this transaction? Okay, that's I left this example 3 and 4 as a homework, yeah, Prof. That's an example about how creative accounting simply made. The next question is creative accounting ethical? So I have to be aware with what Mr. Reza mentioned earlier about forensic accounting, because it really relates to creative accounting. Yeah, so I have the conclusion that creative accounting must have limitation, must have limits. So we don't cross the border and we don't do some fraud. Yeah. Is creative accounting ethically? There are legitimate techniques that can be employed when computing certain items in accounts. Like our example before, the debits or credit that we choose is legitimate, but the impact or the intention, nah, that's the question. Yeah. How creative can managers and accountants be before the action are considered unethical? That's the bottom line question about the creative accounting. So even we have creativity, we have intelligence, and then so on, we still have limits in our creativity. It is difficult to draw an ethical line on creative accounting because GAAP often allow multiple accounting methods that a company can choose. Estimates also are employed. So this is become more difficult for us to decide whether creative accounting is ethical or not. Well, there are two sides of stories about the creative accounting, the pros and the cons. The proponents of creative accounting perspective mention that GAAPs give various accounting methods to select from, and when applying certain methods, so it's happened according to GAAP. GAAP has the loopholes, yeah, to practitioners to select methods available. Companies choose the ones that make their financial statement better. Like our example earlier, that companies can choose whether they want to put the repair of the factory building as an expense or capital expenditure and so on. And creative accounting is a nature of business. To make companies succeed as well as possible, creative accounting assists in this endeavor. And one of the research from Shah et al. 2011 mentioned that it is not that creative accounting solutions are always wrong. It is the intent and the magnitude of the disclosure which determines its true nature and justification. So it is not the excuse for creative accounting, but it is the discussion area in the researcher world, yeah, the proponents of creative accounting. How about the opponents of creative accounting? They stated clearly that creative accounting is accounting manipulation. As I mentioned earlier, it is conscious action by accountant use knowledge of accounting rules to manipulate figure reported in the accounts of a business. And in the creative accounting is accounting manipulation because it is intention to get desired results in a short run, but hurts the ultimate goals of increasing stock value. And also one of the researchers by Gupta and Kumar 2020 mentioned that creative accounting, though legal and acceptable around the world, gives in the way to loopholes provided by the acts and rules governing the preparation of financial statements, and eventually leading to financial crimes and hampering the economy as a whole. So when it touches the financial crimes, then we goes to the next topic about fraud and accounting forensic, like Mr. Reza explained before. Well, in accounting world, there are many scandals, as we know, mentioned like Enron scandal, how this Texas energy company participated in one of the largest audit scandals in history, and it really shocked. And I believe this Enron scandal also developed from creative accounting, yeah, and then how Enron lied to investors by hiding billions of dollars in debt and file project through several illegal practices. And then eventually, yeah, in Indonesia also happened. In 2001, Enron eventually filed for bankruptcy. Another example is Lehman Brothers bankruptcy. A financial services from Lehman Brothers stand as the largest bankruptcy ever filed, holding over $600 billion in assets upon its demise. And I believe there's many examples in other country, like Bank of Gupta, if I'm not mistaken, some what we call it. In Indonesia also happened, yeah. The company in Lehman Brothers bankruptcy, the company became involved in mortgage origination, the process of distributing home loans to borrowers, which led it to become a hedge fund of real estate disguised as an investment bank. If I'm not mistaken, we have a movie about it, titled Big Short. Yeah, it's all movie, but it's interesting about the how America facing the crisis in the mortgage. Yeah, and the next example is also interesting about how accountant, whether it is creative accounting, can brought down Al Capone. I'm not born yet when Al Capone exists, but as I read in the grantthornton.co.uk, this is the story about how the accountant who brought down a gangster, not because his crime activities, but because his tax evasion. So it is quite interesting. So creative accounting also has a good result, yeah, to catch the gangster like Al Capone. Okay. This is a survey from Association of Certified Fraud Examiners. Maybe I just completed what Mr. Reza explained about the accounting, forensic accounting. So this is the survey in 2020 from ACFE. It's quite interesting because they key findings from around 2,000 cases from 125 countries, causing total losses of more than $3.6 billion. I believe this is coming from the creative accounting who become greedy, yeah, maybe, and then become cross the line and become a fraud. And another key findings which is interesting is typical fraud case. The fraud is coming from asset misappropriation schemes, and then financial statement fraud schemes, and then the next slide. Sorry. And then this is another interesting findings that ACFE mentioned that men committed 72% of all occupational fraud, but this debatable, yeah, no hard feeling. And then more than half of all occupational frauds come from this department: operation, accounting, executive, or upper management and sales. So this is just the survey from ACFE. So whether there are pro and cons about the creative accounting, we have to prevent of creative accounting not to cross the border. For example, the prevention of creative accounting can be done by proper maintenance of accounts, following standard, recognizing the role of internal and external audits, use of the red flags, reporting of any unfair practice, consistency in accounting policies, change in audit rules, hiring independent directors and members of the audit committee, proper rewards of whistleblowers following of ethic, penalty options should be available, and also proper implementation of forensic accounting, as mentioned by Mr. Reza. So this is how company would prevent of creative accounting. So I will, in my opinion, if creative accounting become cross the border, it become fraud. So we call it a financial statement fraud, whose definition is deliberate attempt by a corporation to deceive or mislead users or publish financial statements, especially investor and creditors, by preparing and disseminating materially misstated financial statement. So this is the what we call it, the agreement, yeah, between not the agreement, how our references mention that fraud may involve the six things here: the alteration or manipulation of material financial record, intentional of misstatement, the use of aggressive accounting, the manipulation of accounting practices, deliberate misapplication and misinterpretation of accounting standard, and also intentional omissions and disclosure or presentation. So forensic accounting is already explained with Mr. Reza. Yeah, this is just some survey also from ACFE later on. And if Mr. Reza mentioned about triangle fraud, so maybe there are also diamond fraud, yeah, Mr. Reza, yeah, which is one category, capability, which are I have the necessary traits and abilities to be the right person to pull it off. I have recognized this particular fraud opportunity and can turn it into reality. So there are one more component in the diamond fraud. In Indonesia, Prof. Reza, maybe kalau bicara kecurangan atau kriminal, di Indonesia hanya dua kata, Pak. Ada niat dan kesempatan, kata Bang Napi, gitu ya. Incentive and opportunity. Okay. So at the end of my presentation, the creative accounting, I believe, should be used if it with ramification of the law and achieve the company's ultimate goal of increasing stock value, must benefit company in the short run and long run, and important not to mislead users of financial statement. So this is all my presentation, Mr. Reza and Prof. Reza and all the audience. Thank you very much. Selamat siang. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It's very interesting sharing. I think you are the best lecturer to in the state. Because I didn't know yet about Dr. Liz, Dr. Gulam Reza. I am first look her in I look her first in the Zoom right now. Before that, okay. Usually every the second speaker sharing, Wati and then from Uni. Very interesting presentation, Dr. Gulam Reza. I am get the new knowledge today. It's very good issues.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, bro.
The question, we know that another of forensic accounting, there is cyber forensic. Please explain me relation of cyber forensic and forensic accounting. Thank you very much before. Itu from Wati. Okay. And then the second question from Uni, from Dr. Gulam Reza. In Indonesia, many cases regard of digital financial product surface. A part of citizen not familiar regard it. What you advise to use digital financial surface to protection for consumers? This is the question for Dr. Gulam Reza. And then the question to Ibu Dr. Liz from Rihanna. The first, many small medium enterprise while COVID pandemic 2 years ago is fraud, especially business like department store Ramayana, Giant, and so on. There is corporate try to create the report of finance like sister company of Citicorp, Transmart example, where many tenants push Transmart fruit, but the code not agree. What Transmart can to grow up with the creative accounting ways? This is the question. And the second, not just only regard corporate, but many private college university in Indonesia right now, very difficult condition to develop. What you advise for them to establish for the surface with the creative accounting? Yes, no, Indonesia, Dr. Reza, is many private university around 3,000 students below is very difficult for develop. Therefore, Ibu Liz will be to answer about it. Okay, Dr. Gulam Reza, you first to answer for the two questions. I hope you can to smart answer around
Sure.
5 to 1 minute.
Sure,
Okay,
sure.
please.
Sure, bro.
Okay.
I just wanted to add to Dr. Lee's talk about Al Capone. Money laundering term was invented by Al Capone.
Oh, okay.
Yes, because Al Capone in 1930s, he was doing exactly placement, then layer, and then integration. How to do that? That time, no online banking, no remittance, no SWIFT. So what he did, he export washing machine, laundromat to Mexico.
Oh,
Yeah, he export from US the money washing machine, laundromat to South America, and then he sell the machines, the laundry machine, and the money he collected, he import drug into US.
Okay.
So when Al Capone was caught, through an FBI spy, then they understood how he did these illegal activities. So from that time, this term, this phrase invented, money laundering.
Oh, okay. Al Capone, yeah?
Because of Al Capone. He was the founder of money laundering.
He never mentioned in a research paper, yeah, Mr. Reza?
You can see, you can check about the Al Capone. Al
Yeah.
Capone biography. If you see Al Capone biography, you will see this money laundry,
Oh,
laundromat. He
okay,
export
okay.
because that time US was industrialized, so they
Oh,
Yeah,
produce
yeah,
very
yeah.
luxury laundromat, washing
oh,
machine. Dobby, they say Dobby machine.
Dobby
oh,
machine.
Dobby machine. So he
Yeah.
export to South America, and the money he sold the laundromat, he import drug.
yeah.
Therefore, he
Okay,
chose
about
the
the
washing.
cyber
Yeah.
forensic, or we
Mm,
call it also computer forensic. In
mm,
fact, is the gathering and documenting, I can say, proof for the
mm,
court from a computer
mm,
and computing devices that to be
mm,
presentable to the court. So you
mm,
should know all the techniques of investigation
mm,
regarding cyber, we call it cyber forensic. The nickname, the other name is computer forensic. So is to determine, in fact, we want to know who is responsible for the hacking or denial of the service, DOS attacks.
mm,
So usually they take a storage media copy of the computer or storage media of the device under investigation. They make a digital copy by the forensic accountant, and the investigation is performed on the digital copy.
Right.
So this is cyber forensic. Usually
Forensic.
used for attacks, who is responsible, then the damage, economic damage happen through DOS, denial of the service.
Mm,
So the proof can be browsing history, such as email, documents. So it can be an evidence with this digital copy, black and white evidence in the court to be presented to the magistrate for the
right.
allegation,
Right.
and
Right.
also to protect the innocent people from the charges.
Mm, mm, okay. Right. The second?
The second question, sorry, may you repeat the second? It
Regard,
was from
regard.
me or from Dr.
Yeah.
Liz?
For you, the second for you, regard a digital financial product survey right now is many citizen is do not familiar about that. Or what you advise to protection of them from the not available to know about digital finance.
Digital financial services
Yes.
protection.
Yeah. What the consumer must be to know before they use the services of financial digital service?
No, the currently most of the digital, I mean the financial services gone through. Can you repeat again the question? Sorry, I could not understand the.
In Indonesia, many cases regard of digital financial product service. I mean, she mean is criminals case. A part of a citizen not familiar regard it. What you advise to use digital financial service to protection of consumer? You must to be too carefully over it. Okay. Uh, but no problem. This is include your answer before.
May I ask Dr. Liz to help me for this question?
Yeah. But I am very interested while you answer the first question. I remind the one Malaysian Development Bank. It is the another issue, right? Okay. If you, Dr. Liz, you can to continue for you answer to question and related of the before question.
Okay, thank you, Pak Riza, and the audience for the question. The first question, if I'm not mistaken, asking about the point is about how the company move the transaction. Yeah, I don't know whether the Ramayana and also Transcorp is a consult.
Transmart.
Transmart is a
Carrefour before the name is.
yeah. I don't know whether that two companies is consolidated or what we call it, conglomeration between two. So because in my presentation earlier, I mentioned that the creative accounting can be happen through movement of cells. For example, movement of interdivisional cells from subsidiary to parent. So it happened if Ramayana is consolidated companies of the Transmart, it happened. So the Transmart maybe wants to have a higher growth in their financial statements, sacrifices the other company. That's the idea. And then the Transmart willing to recognize the transaction never exists, but can boost the profit or its asset or etc.
Right. Okay, the second.
And the second is the difficult question of the day, I think. It's about how private college university in a very difficult condition can
You are
have through creative accounting. I think I have to make it clear that creative accounting here, it's not intention to it's not relevant with the tata kelola dari perguruan tinggi begitu ya Prof ya.
No,
So
no, I think he mean how can to create the financial construction or the can to the banking is can go to the new credit or so on.
yeah. So when we talk about the private college university, so it has the responsibility to deliver the high quality of education, of course. And meanwhile, the creative accounting relate to private college is maybe in their financial statement. It can be happen if the private college has the obligation to fulfill financial statement. So their financial statement will have an impact of creative accounting. It is might happen, but I cannot judge, yeah, Prof. Yeah, so
yeah. I think Mr. Agung Burda is better to answer. Okay, thank you.
and about the cybercrime is also quite interesting, Mr. Reza, because the one of the survey by KPMG cybercrime is also.
Therefore, I will to invite you more with the Mr. Gulam Reza, the new episode.
About digital finance or digital payment is also a type of cybercrime.
Yeah, but that's right.
This digital finance is in fact a form of fake or fraudulent transaction by hackers or cyber criminal. In fact, the digital is also a form of cybercrime.
Yeah.
Because now especially during pandemic, most of the shopping become online. Increase in the technology of digital online. So now due to increase in this online shopping, so now the cybercrime of also digital finance also increase.
Yeah.
Through hacking, or fake suppliers. Or getting your confidential information regarding the debit card or online.
Okay, right. Before we closing remark, we will to look the last video. But before that, I want to ask to Mr. Guangli, what the condition in the China about the the fraud and the criminal of digital financial. Mr. Guangli, you can to talk around 2 minutes. Are you